Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, we will be taking a look at RX tongs number 4s. Now these are considered bolt jaw tongs, and they have a very similar shape to kind of like a pause tong, if you will. If I put those together, they have a very similar shape to a pause tong, except a little bit larger of an opening or a void. To allow for a much bigger swing out for your bolt head or whatever. But anyway, so really good blanks. These were provided to me by Rex and Ed Appleby at RX Tongs or Crafty Apple Forge. You guys can go check them out. I will leave a link to them where you can get yourself a set of these pre-cut tongs down in the description down below. So without further ado, let's get right into this and get these hot and get going. Okie doke. So the first step in this process is we need to actually split in where we're going to be holding our stock. So we're going to do that by gripping the arched portion of the tong in the vise. Then we're going to pick up a nice slitting chisel and we're going to aim for the center of the piece. And then we're going to cut right down the dead center of this bar stock. Don't let it slip down too far in the vise. And we'll have to repeat this several times with several heats to get this cut where we want. You want to get it as close to centered as you can in the piece. So we really want that cut to be just as centered as we can. So let me put this back over in the heat and I'll let that heat back up while I work on this other piece. Again, make sure it's up proud of the vise. Lock it down nicely. Let's aim for center. I like cutting back towards myself. I find that helps me get a truer squareness or be able to cut down center of a bar a lot easier if I cut towards myself. Again, don't let it sink down too far in the vise before you reset it. That squeeze down, lock down nicely, and right on down we go. There we go. There's number 2. Go over here. Hopefully my other end is ready to go here. We'll see. Yep, it's ready for another heat done on it. Good. Again, lock in the vise. And the shorter the heat you can take on this, the better off you'll be. The more controlled your heats are, the better you'll be. You don't want really long heats if you can keep from it. There we go. And that's starting to work that out nicely. So we'll just keep cutting down for the width. Now obviously if you want to have smaller bar stock in here, you don't want to go much more than this. And you can always file this out to the correct size, or you go ahead and size it on the square bar you're going to be holding. That's your personal choice at this time. The deeper you cut, the wider this will be, so therefore the bigger the bar stock it's going to have to hold. All right, piece number 1 back at the vise again. As you can see, this really goes to town very quickly. And I think I've reached my final depth with that one that I personally need anyhow. I clean up just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so that one there is done for me. This is all going to get cleaned up with hammer work, so don't worry about it scratching up too much. You can always clean that off later. just get the split in the bar done, the tong. Set that off, get this other piece hot. All right, here we go. This will be about the final time on this one as well. Again, we're always, as we're cutting down, we're trying to aim for center, and we're just trying to widen our cut as we go. This thing is not going to like that, but you know, it's just going to have to deal with it. Every time you go into this, you'll see it's like, Jesus, this is an annoying process. Thing keeps going places I don't want it to go. Just part of the process. So there we go. Now that's widened out about as wide as I want it. So hopefully you can see that there just fine. Now I'll stick that back in the fire. And hopefully you can see how the jaw kind of stretched out a bit. That's okay. We're just going to grip it like so and just pull it back in order just a bit so it's back in line. Doesn't take but a moment to do that. You can grip it by the boss, give it a couple pops. The thing's back in order, lickety split. So now the next step in this process, I'm going to let these cool down a little bit naturally, and we will draw out the reins. Now, I'm not working on this piece here any wider because I'm using this to hold smaller bar stock, or that's how I'm going to set these up, is to actually hold smaller bar stock. If you need it to hold wider bar stock, you can chisel this deeper and then, you know, work your chisel, maybe go in with a broader chisel, like a cold chisel, come down through there and broaden that out. That's perfectly fine. But for my purposes, this is going to be about the correct size, as I'm trying to hold between 1/4 inch and 5/16 stock with these bolt jaws here. They're a little overkill for the size, for holding that small stock, but I have my purposes and my reasoning. So again, we'll go get this other one straight real quick, and then we'll be hammering out the reins themselves. Okay, just like in our other videos on these RX tongs, we are going to hammer off the sharp corners at least for about 6 inches wide or 6.5 inches wide, or in other words, our anvil width, the face of our anvil. I hammer that away for you all across the pond, 150 mil or so. That's how we're going to hammer these off. You don't have to spend a ton of time doing this. Again, you make it as round or whatever you want. I just want the corners off. I'm not concerned with the tong being round myself. So that's completely a style choice on your end and your own comfortability. So make your own choices on that. I just want to have it nice and just the sharp corners taken off, and for it to be octagon. There we go. That's nice and square. I'm happy with that. Give it a good brush. And then we will set this one to the side because it is ready for riveting. It'll be ready for its riveting work, so I'll just set that off to the side. Meanwhile, bring out the other one. Hopefully you notice how I'm hammering these and I'm working these in stages. Hopefully you guys are taking note of that. That, I believe, is the best way to work on tongs, is to work them all up to the same stage. Be a rising tide. Bring all ships to the same level. Nice and squared up. Make sure it's acceptable for my taste. Okay, so now I'm back with you. We've got these drilled out, ready to pin them together. I always like to do my tongs where I pin or rivet them together first and foremost, cold, and then we finish it up hot. We're also going to use this supplied tool that RX Tongs sent to me. Excuse me. Grab that rivet again. That RX Tongs sent to me, which is just a basic little rivet header to take and hold the nice bottom head of that rivet. So we're going to slip this through. I believe they sell all this stuff on their site, so you can go check them out. Again, I'll put the links to them down in the description down below. So we'll go ahead and slip that down, hold it down nice and tight with some thumb pressure, and give it a couple really big whacks. I'll rotate a little bit because I got that rivet come a little bit off-sided. And there we go. It's pinned together. That's all we need for right now. Now we need to heat this piece up so these aren't going to come apart. Now we need to take and heat this piece back up with them left a little bit out like what you see here. We want the jaws to be a little bit out. That way we have somewhere to go with working our jaws after it's been fully peened together. And we're going to heat this rivet by putting it in the forge. So let's go do that now. Watch the ends of your tongs, by the way, folks. Watch the very ends or the nibs of your tongs, because if you stick it down in the forge, they will burn up before that rivet gets hot. Okay, so while those finish heating up all the way, I'm going to talk about the other tongs that I've made in this series. These are the RX9s. These are the RX1s. These are like your regular jaws. And these are the RX6 tongs. I've made videos for each one of these tongs of how to put them together, how to adjust the reins, and all of that good business. Be sure to check out the playlist in the playlist section of how these all go together and watch all of them in their length. My overall review of this product is these are going to be very good beginner set of tongs for you to get started into the craft without a ton of skill level. You can knock these together really quick. It really isn't too terrible to put all these together. So now our piece is good and hot. We'll bring it out here. Again, put the rivet down, the rivet head down, and then thumb pressure on the top bar, and then we're going to dome out our rivet on that side. Should only take a few quick blows to rivet that, and then some to round this up. And then that should work out just fine. Now it's okay if it feels like it's kind of loose at this stage. I kept saying that in other videos as well. Just because this rivet's going to tighten. As the metal cools, it shrinks down and then it tightens right up. So, you know, you don't have to drive this so unbelievably tight that you can barely move it, where you can barely move the jaws, just because it's going to tighten up naturally as you go. So you can actually overdrive the rivet too tight. Now, as you can see, we have a bit of a problem with alignment. We are going to fix this at the vise using another handy tool that they sent me, a couple tools, which is what you see here. This is basically a vise tool that clamps the rivet or the boss area in the vise, protecting your rivets. So this way you can get in here with your bending fork and get these all aligned. So I'll show you how that works now after we get the jaws heated back up. We'll focus on the jaws first, getting them aligned, and then the rivet, the handles themselves. Okay, so we've got their fancy little tool here stuck in the vise. I'm gonna go ahead and lock this right in on my boss area. And then we are going to go ahead and bend these jaws to where they align. So I'm going to put a little bit of a crook or bend in the first jaw. I'm going to loosen it, flip it around tighten that again. It's really nice that it holds that vise. Really nice that it holds that jaw nicely in the vise, right on the boss level. It really helps you line these up really quick and fast. So you really can't beat that at all. And there you go. Just lickety split. Those are lined right up. Just as, I mean, you can't do better than that quick. Maybe not even by hand. So again, that's got those nicely put together. Now the next stage in this process is to adjust the reins themselves. So we're going to have to adjust the reins. So I'll heat this back up and we will adjust the reins in line as well. Now this is something that you can do. I should mention this. You can do this at the anvil without this specialized tooling, but this specialized tooling to just be able to crimp right in there at the boss and then have a really focused bend with your bending tool here and do this very accurately and every time is a huge bonus in my opinion. So, you know, I say it's definitely worth the money there. So now that they're like that, we're going to go ahead and work on the reins themselves. Okie doke. Got it nice and hot again, medium hot or so. We're going to get that locked right in there, nice and squeezed and clamped. And again, we're going to use this to be able to bend a nice, acute, relatively acute angle in this to align these reins, which is going to be nice. It's going to be nice to have this. So we got one side done. Take that out, clamp that back in. Make sure we're in there good and squeezed. Okay. Again, give this a bend, and then give this a bend back in order. Get everything lined up nicely. And there you have her. Everything's nicely lined up. Everything's nice and square, in line. The handles are nice and square, in line. Give it a good brushing. And as I do in all of my tongs, I will usually quench this off while it cools. After I set it up for whatever size bar stock I'm using, I will quench this off after it cools in oil. That will allow this to kind of have a seasoned joint. It'll prevent any rusting, and it provides a really nice blackened finish, like what you see these jaws are here. Those have been quenched in oil, and they look like really nice tongs, if I don't say so myself, when they're rubbed down with that oil and they have that seasoned joint. They stay really nice and loose, but a really good tight fitting joint. So you don't get any racking in the joint, but they are still, they slide like butter on each other. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this whole series on RX tongs. Thank you, Rex. Thank you, Ed, for sending me these tongs to try out and to recommend. I can highly recommend them. I believe they're a great product. I think you'd be well satisfied. The quality, the shipping, all that good stuff. I had a pleasant experience. Again, this isn't a sponsored video, but they did send these free to me, you know, and these will be great. So I'll also be looking forward to seeing these in some you know, upcoming live streams, as I will most likely be giving away some completed set of these as door prizes. You can find out more details about our giveaway live streams and things that we do to help equip you beginning blacksmiths out there. You can find out all that information down in the description, so I do highly encourage you to go check that out. So without further ado, God bless you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.